Man, and I've got your daily plan. This song will be Phoebe in your head. You know, the one thing I get stuck in my head a lot is there's this Nestle Crunch ad from way back in the day or whatever, and this like puppet, I don't know. He goes Nestle Crunch, and then he does that. That got stuck in my head one time. And then like there's where's the beef? You know, that was a thing for a while. Remember Got Milk? Remember that? Oh man, I don't miss ads. I get ads while I'm doom scrolling, and like I hate them. I hate all the ads that I get. Anyways, so you're probably wondering what has that to do with anything? Good questions. Nothing. Here's the famous argument for God that's been misunderstood for 300 years from Saved, not Skeptic, because he is not a skeptic. You do not qualify as a skeptic. Anyways, so he shows that we've gotten the wager right for 300 years. He shows, various atheists getting the argument absolutely correct, but I'm not in there, so that pisses me off. Anyways, then he says, no. See, this other guy, this guy explained the wager because he understood the wager for real. See, all the other people, we got the argument wrong. Now, of course, Pascal himself didn't explain it well enough so that we wouldn't get it wrong, but whatever. This guy, he's come along, he has a book, and I guess in that book is like, here's what the argument really means. So please tell us. And yeah, I'm skipping through to 303 in this video, I guess. So time index 303. By the way, I have a response to Pascal's wager that is correct in my channel called the Definitive Pascal's Wager. And we'll get to that in a moment, but I want to play this first.
Pascal's accomplishments.
Here are just some of Blaise.
Oh, yeah. First, we have to listen to Pascal's accomplishments because that matters for some reason. This is nothing more than an appeal to authority. Like, oh, look, he did this, this, and this. I don't care. What's his argument?
Pascal was a groundbreaking scientist, mathematician, geometrician.
I don't care. It doesn't matter. Is he right? That's all that matters.
He virtually invented probability theory.
Demonstrated
how it was.
So if we all got it wrong, what was Pascal trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you know that we all got it wrong for such a long time? Does that mean Pascal was actually very bad at communicating his message? Or does this mean that this guy that comes along 300 years later and says, wait, no, we got it wrong, guys, is right somehow? And he can now, so is he better than Pascal then? I mean, how does this work?
Check this out.
Now, he kind of then says, well, life is a bit like that. We find ourselves in the middle of life, like the middle of a...
Oh, okay. So now we're a different guy, and this different guy is explaining how we actually got it wrong. And now the right version of Pascal's wager. Finally, after 300 years, we'll get it to explain to us the right way from this dude, whoever this guy is. We didn't hear what his accomplishments are, but whatever. He's got a lot of books behind him.
The game where the outcome is uncertain. We don't know. Is there a God? Is there not a God? After this life is over, do we just go into nothingness, or do we go to eternal bliss, or do we go into something worse, which is, eternal torment and so on? We don't know, he says. And so then he sits down and says, well, okay, well, it's, he's having a conversation with someone. I think the wager would have been in the form of a conversation.
Wait, you just think? You don't know? You don't have this mapped out? I thought you understood this thing after 300 years, just basing it off of you thinking? I mean, come on, man. We got to do better.
And he poses this question. He says, there's a coin being tossed at the far edge of the universe. It's going to come down head or tails.
Okay.
Which one are you going to bet?
I will bet that it lands on its side, because even though there's a low probability that happens, it could happen. So I'll wager that it lands on its side.
Either God exists or God doesn't exist. Heaven or hell. What are you going to go for? His conversation partner says to him, well, is there, how do I choose? Are there good reasons one way or the other? And he said, well, reasons pretty limited in how he can help you in this regard.
Ah, yes. So that's key to understanding this argument is reason, the faculty that we use to arrive at a logically valid and understood conclusion that we can count upon. Reason is irrelevant. Set reason to the side as far away as possible, actually. Put reason, like, I don't know, in Jupiter's orbit or something. That's pretty far away from you. Just imagine your reason is in a space shuttle on its way to Titan. Yeah, that'll take care of that reason, that pesky reason. We don't need reason.
So the guy says, well, what do I do? And so Pascal says, well, let's work out the probability. And he goes through a bit of mathematical exploration where he kind of says, well, okay, let's think about it. If you bet that God doesn't exist, and you're right, well, you haven't gained much, you haven't lost much. But if you're wrong, you stand to lose a great deal. If you're
Okay, so we have gotten the wager right because that's exactly what every single atheist in the video had already said about the wager. They already said what the wager was, so we did get the wager right. Okay, so what is he complaining about then? How did we get it wrong?
wrong that God does exist. Whereas he says, if you bet that God does exist and you're wrong, well, again, you haven't lost a great deal, maybe a little bit of sacrifice in this life, but, then you go into nothingness and that's it. But if you're right, you stand to gain a huge amount, which is you stand to basically win the jackpot, eternal bliss. So he's saying if you purely go on probability, if you were being entirely rational about it, you would always bet on belief.
No, actually, and this is where my definitive Pascal's wager video comes into play, which I've linked in the description in case you haven't seen it. And I explain, here's the actual truth table for this. And in the video, I go over it in more detail. Now, actually, this truth table is not good enough, in fact. So what I wanted to show you is actually my brother came up with a even better Pascal's truth table. So I wanted to share that because I think that it requires a highlight here. And so here we go. Where are we? Here we are. Okay. All right. So this is the actual new truth table, and I'm sure that somebody could expand it even further than this. So I want to just go over this real fast here because this is important. Okay. So here, whoa. That okay. Japan, what was that about? Don't worry about that. So here's the legend: believe, don't believe, God, afterlife, cares, God of the skeptics, God is irrational, multiple gods with competing standards, non-divine being, earthly consequences, you're screwed, heaven achieved, nothing happens, outcome unknown. Okay, that's the key to understanding this. Okay, so God exists, there's an afterlife, and that God cares that you believe in it. Then if you believe in it, you get the good thing, but if you don't believe in it, then you're screwed. Okay, but if there's God and afterlife but God doesn't care, then you're fine either way. If there's a God but there isn't an afterlife but God cares if you believe in it, well, you're still screwed because there's no afterlife. There's a God, there's no afterlife, and God doesn't care, you're completely screwed. There's no God but there is an afterlife. Well, I guess nothing happens. You're good, but whatever. There's no God and no afterlife, screwed. God, there's an afterlife, but it's the God of the skeptic, and he cares that you don't believe in him. Then if you do believe in him, you're screwed, but if you don't believe in him, then you're fine to go. God exists, but there's no afterlife, but it's the God of the skeptic, and it cares. Well, that doesn't result in anything. The same thing if God doesn't care, but it's a God, there isn't an afterlife, it's the God of the skeptic, but it doesn't care, whatever. And maybe there's a God and afterlife that cares, but it is sort of, what is S again? It's the God of the skeptics, or who knows? It's God, but there's an afterlife, it cares, but God is irrational, we have no idea what happens. Let's see, was multiple gods with competing standards and afterlife, and they do care what you believe, but we don't know what would happen. There's multiple gods, there isn't an afterlife, and they care Who knows? There's multiple gods with an afterlife. They don't care. Who knows? There's multiple gods. There's no afterlife, and they don't care. Who knows? And N is what? Non-divine being. Who knows? And there's no afterlife, and there are earthly consequences to belief or non-belief, and who knows what happens. There you go. So yeah, wow, that's complicated as hell. And that doesn't look like it's 50-50 anymore, does it? And like I said, that could be expanded out even further. The problem is you are wasting something. You are wasting your limited time and energy here and now. We know here and now exists absolutely for sure. Yeah, you recognize that shirt. Yeah, some insane madman made that shirt. So thanks to that madman, we now understand everything in reality. Anyway, so yeah, this says bet on an outcome. Which one? We don't know. There's a billion outcomes. So it's telling you to decide now, because you can't decide later. Decide now if about this idea. Well, but what if this is true? 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 And that adds to the chart. What if it's aliens? What if we're in the Matrix and this is all a test? And when you die, you actually are just removed from the Matrix. You wind up in a body. I don't know. Maybe you're 18 years old or something nice. That'd be kind of a good age to be at. I think, enough energy to do some stuff, whatever. Or maybe in my 20s, 25. I was still pretty good shape around that time. Still had enough energy to do stuff. 21 would be good too. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, but and then you're told, well, everything that you thought, felt, and belief on Earth was all calculated, and here's your reward or punishment because we run this program. And well, everybody was wrong. Every religion was wrong. Whatever. But maybe that's true. So if you believe that the Matrix thing is true, then you'll get this reward. Well, how do I know that? Well, what if you don't believe in it and you're wrong? Then what's the loss? It's so nonsense because it asks you to believe in something unprovable and unproven. There's this cult. I mentioned this in a live I had, and I still got to find out the cult's name or whatever, but there's a cult, or was a cult, that was like technologically based. And there's a Time Suck episode about it. I'll link that later if I remember. But anyways, remind me in the comments if you want me to find it. Otherwise, I'll forget. Whatever. Anyways, so this cult came up with this idea and said, okay, the AI will take over if we ever, as humans, figure out this idea. Now, that they said this idea, and you say, well, what idea? We're not telling you what the idea is. Just that if you ever figured out that idea, AI will then take over the world. The very fact that we might come up with that idea is proof that AI will take over the world. And because we now have proof that AI will take over the world, you have to help us to destroy AI because that's the cult's goal. And the only way, of course, to do that is to be part of the cult. Now, if you believe in this nonsense, and it is nonsense, then you're part of the cult. But if you don't believe, you're not part of the cult. Of course not. Why would you believe that? Well, because there's an idea, and if the idea is true, then this other thing happens. But the key is you believe the idea is true in the first place, and that's what gets you hooked. You can't believe unless you believe. This is how every cult, and I dare say, broadly speaking, most, if not every religion works. You have to believe first, or you're not even in the door. You're a skeptic. You're on the outside. You don't go in because you don't believe. Why would I believe anything without evidence or an argument that is sound? Why would I believe that there might be a belief that if I hold it, then something wonderful will happen? This also goes to the video I made called The Challenge. And there I present a scenario and I say, look, I'm going to declare this to be true. If you do this sequence of events the way I outlined, then you'll get a wish. You'll get whatever wish you want, and it will be granted. It won't be a corrupted wish. You will get whatever you want, but you have to do this thing. And no one has done the challenge. No one. No one's even tried. So why not? Why hasn't anyone taken the challenge? Well, because I have no proof that the end result will be anything at all. And that's what the skeptic is asking. Is like, look, you can say whatever you bleep you want. You can say, well, what if, all you want. But you need to demonstrate that it is, not just a what if proposition. But what's amazing is, even though they've already explained Pascal's wager, they're now going to explain that actually everybody's got Pascal's wager wrong. So all the truth tables don't matter, even though the truth table of the original Pascal, that's wrong too. The more modern versions that I presented in my video or that my brother came up with, those truth tables also don't matter, even though they're more close to being right, because actually Pascal's wager isn't about whether or not you believe and that leads you to something good. No. Pascal's wager is actually about something else. And this is going to be amazing. Ready? Here we go.
You'd always bet that God exists because you stand to gain a lot more that way, whereas the other way you stand to lose a lot more.
Purely on probabilities, if you were being rational, you'd bet on belief. The reward is infinite. The risk, it's minimal. And this is where the argument hits home, because Pascal's point isn't to prove that God exists. It's to ask why, if you claim to be rational, you don't bet on him. Listen to
because part of being rational is not betting on something that you don't have proof of. We have no proof that there is a God. We have no proof that God wants me or needs me to believe in it. And we have no proof that God was going to reward me for that belief. We simply don't have proof of these. So you shouldn't believe in something without proof. That is rational.
Glenn break this down further.
Pascal is famous for saying, the heart has its reasons, of which reason knows nothing.
Okay, so the organ that moves your blood around can apparently think. No, okay, what he means heart, what does he mean? Of course, he means emotions. So emotions. The emotions have their own thoughts, their own emotions aren't rational. Just say it like that, okay? That's all you're saying is emotions aren't rational. Or like not necessarily. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. You know, like it's rational that you would cry when something sad happens. You know, go watch Grave of the Fireflies and try not to cry, and at the end, and you're going to, you should, and if you're not crying at the end, something might be wrong with you. I don't know, but it's very sad. It's an extraordinarily sad movie. Hurts a lot, and I'm not going to watch it a third time. I've seen it twice. That's more than enough. The first time was out again in the theater. That was so painful, but it was great. It's like some, but anyways, but yeah, that's logical that you see or experience something sad and you cry, but sometimes emotions aren't rational. You'll be happy or sad or angry, and you'll be like, "Why am I angry?" I'm just angry. No reason that I can think of. Like all of a sudden, I'm just angry. That's interesting. I don't like why, and you just take this moment. You're trying to figure out why I'm angry, and you don't know. You have no idea because your emotions just being an emotion randomly. Something fired in your brain, and there might be a reason, but you don't consciously know what that reason is. And even if you explore, maybe you'll never figure it out. Maybe you will. I don't know. But, maybe you were hungry. Maybe you didn't go to the bathroom. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you kicked something earlier and you didn't notice it until just now, but you're not aware that that's what's making you angry. So if you're not aware, you're not aware. Okay. But yes, sometimes emotions can be illogical or unrational in that sense. And that's what Pascal's saying. Okay. And
Pascal was in the great Augustinian tradition, going back to the Apostle Paul and Jesus and the prophets, in which human beings are heart-driven creatures who rationalize what
brother.
we already love. What our hearts love, our wills then choose, and our minds later justify.
Okay, so what your emotions already like, you then justify later with explanations of why you like that thing. That might be the case. And that's all the more reason to be a skeptic rather than just believe your emotions, because your emotions are irrational at times. Now, sometimes they're not. Granted, sometimes they're very rational. But to make a decision on your emotions, knowing that sometimes they can be irrational, might in fact be an irrational judgment to make, given that you don't know for sure that you're making the decision based on your emotions due to reason or due to the emotions themselves. So the only way out of that scenario then is to set the emotions aside, which can be difficult or might seem to be impossible, depending on what it is. Maybe you need to ask somebody else to be objective about the situation. I'm too close to this to be objective. From an outsider view, give me an insight. This is where therapy and other people can maybe help with their insights. And so look, you're objective. You don't feel the feelings I feel about this thing. And I really like this person, or I really like this activity. Should I keep doing it? Well, are you getting a reward for it? Is there problems with it? Will this activity lead you to ultimately a bad outcome? Will this person lead you to a bad outcome? Etc. And so they can be more objective than you. And now, whether you listen to that advice or not, who knows? But at least you've got an objective viewpoint. Look, this person, they're just after you for a particular outcome that they want. They want, this X, Y, and Z, and that's why they're, doing stuff. And it's like, okay, that's a problem. Or, that the problem, the person has a problem trusting your choice in your partner because they don't want to see you screwed over. Well, look, have enough faith in me that I will make a good decision based on rational things. You might have that conversation, or you might say, hey, look, let's be rational. Do you think I'm rational? I would pick a person that would not screw me over, and I'm going to be very careful with this. And the moment I see that they are screwing me over, I'll get rid of them. I'll have them sign a prenup or whatever the bleep it is. I'll do a contract or something that will protect me legally. Okay. All right, so let's handle this. We can involve the emotions if need be, but we can do so in a rational way. But he's saying, no, toss all that out. What you love or what you like emotionally, then you'll decide later on that that's the correct thing. And then you'll make up all sorts of reasons why you love that thing or you don't love that thing. Okay, cool. All right. So Pascal's wager isn't actually about flipping a coin. It's actually about, well, do you love God in the first place? And if you do love God, then you'll believe in God. And if you don't love God, then you won't believe in God. Okay. So it's all about whether I loved God or not whether or not you should believe in God. So Pascal said it wrong. Okay, so that makes Pascal's wager wrong then. So Pascal laid it out the wrong way in the first place, and we just misunderstood for 300 years that Pascal didn't write it the way that this guy wanted him to write it, which is a completely different version of Pascal's wager, which is not the version of Pascal's wager that we got right, but it's actually a new version of Pascal's wager, which if we accept it as being right, then that means that Pascal got it wrong and that this guy got it right, even though that's not what Pascal said. Understood? Got it. Great.
What the heart loves, the will chooses, the mind then justifies. Pascal is not a rationalist, and he's not trying to reason you to God. He's trying to show you the way you already operate. And you.
Okay, so Pascal's not a rationalist. Very important. I agree. Pascal isn't trying to get you to believe in God. Okay. Pascal's just saying, well, What do you already love? Even though Pascal doesn't say it like that. He's basically, he's, look, yes, on paper, that's what Pascal wrote. But forget about that. This guy, this new guy here, whatever this guy's name is, stroking my shin dude guy, I don't know, on the air. I don't know this guy's name. I don't know who he is or why I should believe what he says. But no, he has come along after 300 years to say Pascal should have written it in this way. And now we're supposed to believe this new version of Pascal's wager, which is actually, do you love God? Oh, do you love God? Yes or no? Either you love God or you don't love God. And if you don't love God, well, then you don't believe in God because you don't love him. But if you love him, you believe in him. Oh. Well, the problem is I have to believe that there is a God to be able to love it. It's not that I don't love it and then I don't believe. I just don't believe. And the love part is completely irrelevant to it. It's kind of hard to love something that isn't. Although, well, I mean, I do love Sailor Mercury, but she's real, right? Like, no, she's real. No, don't play the video. Wait, no.
You already operate as somebody who is committed in this world because of your passions, not because of your reason. You haven't chosen your way into the life you now live. You have felt your way into the life that you now live. And when you are confronted with the call to come to Christ, or at least just to come to church, or at least to surrender to God or pray, when you're confronted with that, what is first going to motivate you is not your reason, it's actually your heart.
It's your heart. Your heart. Your heart chooses. Yes, your heart. Your heart chooses, not your reason and logic and evidence. Your heart is what. Look, yes, your heart. I've got your heart here. Your heart's what decides. Your heart. Your bloody bleeping heart. That's what decides. Yes. Heart. Yes, heart. That's what decides. Oh, yes. Oh, it's all about your emotions and your feelings. It's not about evidence. Oh, don't worry about the evidence. Is there evidence of God? Oh, of course there's evidence, but don't worry about that. It's what your heart wants. Oh, your heart. Oh, it's all about your heart. That's all.
That is what Blaise Pascal is trying to prove to you.
Wow. What?
That's what he's trying to prove to you. That's not what he said, but that's what he meant. Oh, okay. All right, cool. And this guy, he's just eating it up. Oh, this saved, non-skeptic guy, he's just eating up that bullshit with a spoon. Oh, yeah. Feed me more of that bullshit. I love that bullshit. Yeah.
A revealing truth. The wager, it's not a gimmick. It's a mirror into our hearts.
Oh, it's not a gimmick. It's a mirror into your heart. Oh, I mean, this whole time we thought it was just a gimmick. No. It's a mirror into your heart. This video is utter nonsense. Save Skeptic has some of the worst arguments that there are in apologetics. Just the worst takes and the worst version of apologetics. Second only maybe to creationists. I mean, he's slightly above the creationist arguments and how bad they are. Because the creationist argument, I can't believe in that God ever. This guy's argument is so bad, it's like, well, I guess I could believe in that version of God if I was completely lobotomized, But see, even if I was completely lobotomized, I wouldn't ever believe in the creationist God. Although then again, maybe I would, because, then again, I guess if I was completely lobotomized, I couldn't believe in anything because I wouldn't ever pray. Anyways, look, there's no point in doing a tier system. The argument sucks. That's all that matters. This isn't what Pascal said. And to say this is what Pascal meant is completely erroneous and full of emptiness. You can't prove what he meant to say. But this is a let's dust off this argument and polish it up and present it as if it's new tactic. And this is also a tactic about undermining reason and logic, not about finding out what's true, but saying if you don't believe, it's not because of the evidence, which there is plenty of evidence. We're not going to tell you what the evidence is. Just trust us, bro. There's evidence. But it's because you just don't love God. And I'm like, look, how in the world would I love something if I don't believe in it? Well, no, you decided that after you decided based on your emotions to not believe in God, and then you tried to justify why you don't believe in God after the fact. It's an undermining of reason and logic to go to the emotional element and say, I know what you're feeling. I know how your mind works, and I know better than you do. And this, and by the way, Pascal, that's what he meant when he said what he said. And if you're a believer already, it might sound really good to you. And based on the comments that he got, a lot of people seem to just go, Amen! Yay, Jesus! Yay! Amen! God is good. And they're not thinking. They're not thinking critically. They don't, maybe, I don't even know if they watched the video, or it doesn't matter. They just, yay, Jesus, yay! Oh, you showed those atheists, because it's not about evidence. They just hate God. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to convince his audience that it's not lack of evidence. It's just that we hate God. That's why you don't believe. Not because there's no evidence, but because you just hate God. That's why. Oh, okay, great. Wonderful. Can you prove I hate God? Well, yeah, because you don't believe in God. So obviously you hate God. Well, which God? Your God? Like, what about the other gods? Do I hate those gods as well? Don't worry about those gods. Those gods don't matter anyways. Oh, you don't believe in those gods because you hate those gods then. Oh, now it's a new rager. So if you don't love God, that's a different God than your God, then that's because you just hated that God and your heart just didn't want that God. And now you're trying to justify that God doesn't exist through your argument, which means every single argument that you could hope to make for or against any God now becomes an argument from emotion, meaning making it a completely erroneous argument. So now we can't have any argument for or against any God. And that leaves us with what exactly? Well, being a skeptic about God. You don't believe in any God in that case. And nor do you believe in any argument for God, because you suddenly now believe in this idea that every argument for or against God would have to be one made purely from emotions we can't always trust to be rational. And even if they are rational, we couldn't know that for sure. So we couldn't know that the outcome is a good outcome. So then we're back to being a skeptic now. If we follow this argument to its logical conclusion. So we started a skeptic in this God and we ended a skeptic in this God. And that reveals something about our heart. Well, no, it doesn't. It does reveal that we wanted to be rational and we wanted evidence and we never got evidence. And we weren't given a rational argument. We were given the most irrational argument that you could ever give, which is nothing more than an appeal to and from emotion. Do you love God? I don't believe in God, so no, I don't love God. Do you hate God? No, I don't believe in God, so I don't hate God. I guess I could love or hate God depending on what God was. Depends what you mean by God. But more importantly, what's your evidence for that God? And if you don't have evidence, why in the world should anyone believe? And if you say, well, but if you believe, then you get this wonderful thing. That's nice. Prove it. And until you have proof, I'm not going to waste any of my time or energy on belief. And neither should you. Until next time, be skeptical. And after next time, well, stay skeptical. And don't be a saved skeptic, because that just makes no sense. It's just incoherent. What kind of nonsense is that, really? I don't know. Leave your comments in the thing below. Tell me to post the thing and did whatever. I mean, what? You made some mistakes on the chart. No, you didn't. The chart's perfect. You can't tell me you made mistakes. No, listen. Even though he said he made mistakes, what he means is it's all about the heart, and you can base things on the heart, and then you'll believe, because the heart, hearty heart, fart, heart, and the industry, heart.